Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Have a chance, please. All quiet, please. Thank you. Go ahead. Take out your notes, especially the 3-page, whatever, 2-sheet guide, the handout that I gave you that goes along with this unit, with all the different bullet points and so forth. Have out also maybe like a separate sheet of paper or someplace in your notes or whatever that you can like mark stuff down, because we're going to be doing review. Okay? Test review for the test, which for you guys is going to be Friday. Okay? When you come in here. And it's really helpful when we do the review. If you know the answer, great, you can mark it down. If you don't know the answer, then you'll hear the answer and then mark it down and go back into and find in your notes where that is so you can like really hone in on it. Okay? This is the first of the big tests that you have in my class, and in normal circumstances you would have had it earlier. Okay? But under the hybrid and just everything's a little different this year, this unit test is like your final. And so, yeah, so you may have heard some of you guys have got older siblings and so forth. They're like, I don't know, what do they tell you? So they tell you that you really need to like prepare for Mr. Hansen's test as far as like detail? Yeah, if you talk to them, they will, because they've had several of those tests and so forth. And if they come in not ready, then it's like, oh my gosh, there's just so many details. Why does Mr. Hansen care so much about historical details? Well, you should care about historical details, okay? Because like if someday you're writing an essay and so forth about, I don't know, here's the example I always use, the civil rights movement, you can't just go, oh yeah, there was this guy, and like he had a dream, and then he gave a speech, and then that was it. Do you even know who I'm talking about? Yeah, you got a day off on Monday because of his contributions. Huh? Martin Luther King Jr., yeah? He had a dream, and he gave that speech. Was he the only person as part of the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s? No, yeah. In fact, a whole big unit in 10th grade is dedicated to the civil rights movement. And there's lots of different people involved in that. So details matter, they matter, and so forth, which I'm sure creates a little bit of stress and anxiety on your part because you're like, oh my gosh, there's just so many details. And you guys take a lot of notes, right? How many of you guys would say that you've probably taken more notes for this unit than maybe any other unit in any other class that you, yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. And that's a good thing, because in the long run, I may have said this to you before, I'll say it again. In the long run, students who I've taught, they've gotten ready for, ultimately, by the end of their senior year, IB history exam. And it covers not only the 12th grade and 11th grade, but what I've also done is included units in the 10th grade and the 9th grade. And so when you go back over and review the notes you took, that helps you, right? Because you've got them there. You can go over and look and go, oh, you got stuff to study, right? That's kind of like what I did when I went into being a lawyer. Went to law school for 3 years, took a lot of notes. Did I have a big exam after 3 years of that? It's called the bar exam, so I did that. Okay, so by the way, handed back some of you guys did this already. All of you should know this, particularly if, like after this test, you're looking at the end of the semester and you're like, ooh, I'm just a handful of points just a little bit short of the next highest grade. Maybe the next highest grade is an A or B, so forth. Then you want to make sure that you do some of the extra things. And I put it on Google Classroom. The 2 quizzes we had, if you do the study guide, you can get those turned in to me by Wednesday of next week. Okay? Also, by the way, do you guys know how long you're in school for on Friday of next week? You do know. How long are you in school for Friday of next week? Yep, good. There are some of the other classes that they weren't aware. So you're not going to be in my class on Friday. You will be in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th period. And then you'll be done. Okay? Does that make sense? You guys were aware of that? Good. Good, good. No. Next Friday, yeah. Next Friday, next Thursday and Friday. Thursday doesn't matter as much because that's a blue day. I don't know. Maybe for some of your classes, maybe it does. That was already scheduled as a half-day exam day. Okay? So that's already in there. And then the following week, it's a little weird because of the Tuesday. Some of you guys doing the PSAT? Okay, so you actually come to school on the Tuesday, even though it's a blue day. You come to school, take the PSAT, and then, for goodness sakes, make sure you have arrangements to go home, because otherwise you just have to stick around here waiting for the bus, which is kind of a pain. And then probably when we come back and meet on a green day with you guys, I'll have something probably video-oriented, just because that's what I'm going to have to do with the blue group on the Tuesday, because I won't see those guys. Planning. All right, now, you guys ready for the review? Should we do this? Okay, here's how we do the review. I basically, first tell you, well, there's 65 questions. Hello, 65 points. And you can write this down. Sometimes it helps. People like to know. It makes them comfortable knowing what they're going to see. 50 of the questions are matching. All right, so I got groups of 5, names of people, concepts, places, and things like that. I have 10 true-false questions, okay? All right. And then I usually don't do this, but on this particular test, I've got 5 fill-in-the-blanks. And there's no word bank, so you got to know it, okay? You just got to know it, all right? And sometimes, actually, I think on a couple of them, I narrow it down and give you some choices as to these ones. But you should do well. And this covers everything. So, and you guys were all here when we did the last day of notes on the Russia, yes? Da? Oh, yeah. Do you need some fun? Okay, yes. And then come back right away, because he's doing critical review for a test. Okay? All right. Here's how we do the review. Okay. I'm going to call on somebody. I'm going to call on you. And actually, I'll give you the first choice. You can actually say, no, I don't want to do this question. I'm going to call on somebody else. So you can pass. Do you want to pass it on to somebody else? Okay, you'll take it. All right, way to go, Abby. All right, so she's going to take the question. And everyone actually look at the question and see, oh, wow, I know the answer. Because as soon as you know the answer, put your hand up, because we want to have as many questions as possible that we get out there. So as soon as somebody knows the answer, you can look around. If you're kind of stuck on it, don't worry about it. It's okay. You can call on somebody. And then they get to answer the question, and then we move on. And again, these are going to be things that either pull directly or incidentally from the test and so forth. Yes? What? Matching is the biggest component. 50 of those, yeah. So let's... Do I? That would be good, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? And I do have a Google Classroom, but... Oh, look, aren't you so lucky? Here you go. There it is. Okay. So... Ready to do it? Does anyone else like to have? It's pretty handy. Oh, you have your wrong button. Okay, so look at that. What? Okay. And actually, this is a good thing to have out in front, because sometimes I'll say, oh, look on page 2, about halfway down, there's a bullet point. It's in there. Okay? And then you'll call on somebody else, and we'll just see how this goes on. Don't worry about somebody feeling like, oh my gosh, they hate me, they call me. Everyone's going to be doing at least 3 or 4. And sometimes people will do more. Sometimes you get this back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But sometimes weird things like it bounces off and hits somebody else. So we'll see how it plays out. You ready? Sure. Give me the name of this person. This is a woman. Speaks German. She married into the Russian royal family, to the Tsar. But her husband wanted to pack her off to a convent. She and Russian nobles ultimately had him killed, and she became the great, powerful, sort of enlightened, although she really crushed rebellions and so forth. Who was she? It was not Elizabeth the Great, but the Great is okay. Oh, we got a lot of hands on this one. You want to call on somebody else? Come on, quick. Catherine the Great. Yeah, Catherine the Great. And as far as spelling goes, it's actually a C, but my sister, Catherine, spells it with a K, but if you put a K, I'm not going to necessarily mark that wrong. Okay, got that? Okay, who goes next? Yeah, you get to. That's how it goes. Okay, Garrett, here's a question. Give me the name of this all-powerful monarch. She went toe-to-toe with the Spanish and helped defeat the Spanish Armada with their flame ships. She was a very tolerant Protestant. It is Elizabeth II. Okay? Very tolerant Protestant Queen of England. I don't wish to make windows into men's souls, etc., etc., etc. So we got 2 ladies on the test. Yes, who's next? Come on, chop. Okay, Electra. Here's your question. Give me the name of these people. Okay? These are people who were persecuted during the time period that we studied, especially like during religious conflicts and so forth. People will go, man, your religion is wrong. It is pagan. It is not Christian. And so a lot of times these people, particularly women, were burned at the stake. Sometimes they drowned as part of some kind of a evidence gathering thing. What were these people called?
Wicked.
Yep. That's right. Witches. Yeah, that's right. W-I-T-C-H-E-S. Witches. Got that? Oh, you did. Oh, very good. Very colorful. All right, who goes? Nathaniel, here's your question. Within Christianity, you need to know that there's a variety. There's the original Catholic, right? In Western Europe, of course, you got Eastern Orthodox or Russian Orthodox, depending on what part of Eastern Europe and so forth you're in. And then the Protestants pop up, and they've got all kinds of different denominations. Denomination means like what kind of variant among Christian groupings. Which is the one for Spain? Ferdinand and Isabel, the monarchs, they were very clearly believing in one, and they didn't like any of the others, and they wouldn't allow them in their country. Mm-hmm. Catholic is correct. Okay, they were Catholic. Okay, all right, Nathan, who goes? Who goes next? Okay, Hannah. I'm looking for food. Okay. All right, I already had my lunch, but this is when we had the Columbian Exchange and we had different things going from one side to the other. We had a lot of different things coming from the Americas that ultimately were grown over in Europe, Asia, and Africa. This is probably the most important of those foods because you could grow a lot of it in difficult soils and so forth and bring forth lots of nutrition and yield and feed lots of people and increase the population. Potatoes is right. Very good. Potato. Okay, who goes? Okay, who? Tessa. Okay, Tessa. All right. Tessa, give me the name of this document. Henry VIII of England, king. He became the head of the Church of England, right, the Anglican Church, separated from the Catholic Church, and that gave him the ability to divorce his first wife and another subsequent wife later on. What was the name of the law that was passed by the Parliament, the nobles in Parliament, that gave him that authority? Henry VIII of England. It was the first. Yeah, and then he divorced, I think, his fourth wife. It was the Act of Supremacy. I think I've got that one near the bottom of the first page, bullet point. Right? And just sort of general advice, again, I mentioned this to some of you guys directly and generally, good place to start when you're getting ready for the test is like that original handout, okay? And because that will make sure you really hone in on those various different things. There's other stuff in there, obviously, as well, but that's a template that I use when I build my tests to be like, okay, this and this and this and this and this and so forth. So that's on there. Good. Who goes next? Okay, Chloe, give me the name of this man. Let's see, we'll do this one. Oh, yeah. He built this really big, bright, beautiful onion dome cathedral honoring the Russian Orthodox Church after he crushed the Kazans. He was the Russian powerful Tsar. It was absolutely Ivan the Terrible. Very good. Okay, Ivan the Terrible. Okay, who goes next?
Oh, yeah. Garrett goes next.
Garrett goes next. All right, Garrett, give me the name of this country. This was the first European country that found a way to get from the Atlantic Ocean around the southern tip of South Africa into the Indian Ocean and over to India and so forth. Was what? Portugal is right. They hired Vasco da Gama, and he got the job done. Okay, very good. Portugal. Okay. Owen, here's your question. Give me the name of the building that was built in Moscow that Ivan the Terrible had built to commemorate the defeat of the Kazans with those onion domes in each of them, each of the 7 ones commemorating the death of one of those Kazan leaders. What was the name of that building? This would be in the latter part of your notes. St. Basil's Cathedral, exactly. St. Basil's Cathedral. Very good. Okay, who goes next? Okay, Bobby. Give me the name of these people. Speaking of Russians, these were the ones that Ivan the Terrible and subsequent czars of Russia, they sort of like settled into, with their weapons, into areas that Russia expanded into. So they really helped Russia to expand. Think of them as pioneers with an attitude and plenty of weapons. And they're in the last part of your notes, one of the last bullet points. That's right. Cossacks is how you pronounce it, but very good. Now that works, because you're going to be able to recognize it when you see it on the test. Okay? All right. Did you guys get that one? Okay? All right, Bobby goes. Nathan, here's your question. All right, now this term you might not know. Write it down. Factory. Okay, you guys thinking factory. That's like a building where they like manufacture things. It's actually also the name of forts, trading posts, and these are along the African coast. What country established a lot of these factories along the African coast on their way to the Indian Ocean and on their way to India? What European country had lots of factories, fort trading posts along the African coast to make sure that they had places for their ships to come in, and they defended that trade route. It was the same country that was the first one to get around the tip of the southern part of Africa into the Indian Ocean. That was a question that was done earlier. Okay, you can call on somebody. It's Portugal. Yep, it is Portugal. Okay? All right. And by the way, those ships, another term I don't think I mentioned to you, and I'm sure I actually have a note here to give you a free question on this one. Those ships, the Portuguese ships, are referred to as caravels. I think I neglected to tell you that fancy name, but no worries. You'll have that. Caravel, C-A-R, like car, A-V-E-L. Caravel. Okay. Who goes next? Nathan. Abby, give me the name of this man. He's an Italian. He writes a book called The Prince. And he says, let me give some advice to all you leaders out there. It's good to be loved, it's good to be feared. But if you can't have both, it's better to be feared. Yeah. Who is he? It's not Nicholas, but it's close. And it's on the first page. I want to say about like halfway down, maybe. A little bit more than half. Niccolo Machiavelli. Very good. All right, Abby, who goes? Okay. Maddie, here's your question. Give me the name of this man. He sailed on the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. He went south. He went around the southern tip of South America. Whoa, he was the first one to do that. And then he sailed across the Pacific Ocean, which is a really big ocean. And then he got killed in the Philippines. But his journey went all the way around the world. Okay, who was that man on behalf of the Spanish? It was Magellan. Very good. Ferdinand Magellan. Okay, who goes next? Ferdinand Magellan sailed for Spain, went around the southern tip of South America in the Atlantic Ocean, and then across the Pacific Ocean and so forth. Okay, Hannah, is that right? All right, Hannah, give me the name. I've got a nice section of Johns or Johanns or whatever and so forth. Give me the name of this John. This is a John that Luther really did not like. Okay, this was a guy who was working for the Pope to raise a bunch of money for the St. Peter's Basilica, the new cathedral that they were building in Rome. And so he went up to the German territories and he was raising a lot of money selling indulgences. Remember that? You know, you can like spend money and then sins are forgiven now, and in the future, and so forth. Who was that guy? That really effective fundraiser. And his name is near the bottom of the first page. The world-famous indulgence seller, the notorious indulgence seller. Initials JT. You want to call on somebody if you're not sure? No, not John Calvin. No. John Calvin would have been in agreement with Luther, not happy with this guy. You call on somebody else? It was Johann Tetzel. Johann. It's Johann. Johann. That's how the Germans pronounce it. Yeah. But yeah, I know who you're talking about. Okay, yeah, so Johann Tetzel. And I want to say it's like in the last bullet point in that first big section on page 1, Indulgences, Purgatory, and Johann Tetzel. Okay, hand who goes? Okay, Chloe. Capitalism, free enterprise, free trade, right? Economic principles that Adam Smith really liked. But you know what? He was giving arguments that the old system, that countries had colonies, and that those countries would only allow themselves to trade with those colonies, very limiting in trade. What was that system called that Adam Smith said, that's not very good. That's not going to allow for lots and lots of trade. And too much protection. What was that called? It's on page 2. In fact, right near the bottom. That's the name of a book that was written by Adam Smith. That's a really interesting book. But that is not the answer. So you can call on somebody. You've got several hands. Mercantilism. I think it's near the second bullet, near the bottom there. Mercantilism, the old system of like, don't open up your colonies for trade to other people and protect business in your own country. And actually, a lot of countries still do that today. Okay. Chloe goes. Okay. All right. And she's going to go again. Here we go. Let's do one of these. The southern tip of South America, right? What is the name of that point? It's not the point of death and halation. Cape Hope? Cape of Good Hope. Yeah, we'll call it that. Cape of Good Hope. Very good. That was Africa. What's at the southern tip of South America? Now, Straits of Magellan. Yeah, Straits of Magellan. Okay, Electra, who goes? Alec, who goes? Owen. Give me this question. Give me this answer. Give me the name of the man who came to be king in France. It was really weird because he married into the royal family, and the royal family was Catholic, and he was Protestant. And so then when they killed a lot of people at his wedding, remember that? And then they were going to kill him, and then he switched to Catholic, and then he switched back to Protestant, and then eventually he became king, and he switched to Catholic again, right? Who was that man? Who was the man? Henry IV. Very good. Henry IV. That's on page 2. I want to say about halfway down, third of the way down, maybe. Okay, Henry IV. Ellie. Here we go. Ellie, give me the name of the artist in Italy from Florence. He did a magnificent sculpture out of marble of David, as opposed to the one that's a little bit smaller and so forth. This was the big one. Very heroic. Who was that guy who did it? No! No! You got to know your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was not Leonardo. Or Da Vinci, whatever you want to call him. It was not Donatello either. No, because he did the smaller version. Who did the big one? Oh, we got a lot of hands up here.
Okay, Michelangelo, no.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah. He did. No, you said Leonardo. You said Da Vinci. You didn't say Michelangelo. Ah. All right, who goes next? Owen, here's your question. Give me the name of this concept. Speaking of the Renaissance, it's a very important concept in the Renaissance. It's kind of an overarching theme of less focus on religion and more focus on the amazing creative abilities of men and women and their brilliant minds, even though they were given their brilliant minds and creative abilities by God. Nevertheless, it is a little bit of a toning down of God's focus and more on what? Not scientific revolution. That's going to be later. And that's That's going to be a little bit later. This is going to be very early on in your notes, near the top of page 1. It's men and women, and we call them together. They're part of a group that we refer to. It's within the Italian Renaissance. Strike 2. You want to call on somebody? I think these men and women, these boys and girls, these humans could probably answer it. What do you think? It's not idealism, although that's not entirely incorrect, but it fits within that other concept. I know. It's not realism and so forth either. Humanism, yeah. Humanism, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say those were, because they kind of fit in. They're like part and parcel of the whole humanism thingies-ism. All right, Owen, who goes? Bounces off Ellie. Hits Owen. All right. Ooh, wow, that happens sometimes. Owen, give me the name of this guy. It's not too bad. Yeah, it bounced off it. There was like some weird thing. It just happened. You don't have to do it. Yeah, because he was like, he kept going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I'm like, this isn't a tennis match. Yeah. Who is this guy? Printing press. 1450. Yeah, Johannes Gutenberg. That is a good answer. Very good. And who goes next? Maddie. All right, here we go. Maddie. Okay. Who is the man who shows up on behalf of Spain and goes toe-to-toe with Montezuma in Tenochtitlan? He's the conquistador who defeated the Aztecs. The Aztecs! The Aztecs! You got to know your conquistadors. Yeah, you don't give me no like defeater of no Inca. I want a defeater of the Aztecs. Hernan Cortez is right. Yep, Hernan Cortez. Very good. Okay. And the other guy was the one who defeated the Incas. Yeah, Pizarro defeated the Incas. Very good. Okay. And of course, if you watched, which one was dealt with in the Guns, Germs, and Steel? That was Pizarro, yeah. They focused more on the Pizarro one. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Who goes next? You did say, right? Who? Chloe, okay. Chloe, give me the name of this guy. We replicated an experiment of his and where we saw land ultimately connect with me as I was connecting with it. This is the English physicist who discovered calculus, laws of motion, gravity. Oh man, this guy is brilliant. He also invented a really good cookie. Just kidding, I'm joking about the last part. Yeah. What was the name of the cookie he invented? I forget. Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah. Just, yeah. No, he didn't invent a cookie. That's like, I don't know who invented the Fig Newton, but it was not him. Yeah. Yeah, he dropped a cookie and yeah. Anyway, who goes next? Garrett goes next. All right, give me the name of this. It's not really religion. It's sort of like a quasi-religion. It's like Christianity and so forth, except it's from the Enlightenment time period. And the people that followed this belief system were like, yeah, there was a God, created everything and so forth, but no intervention, no miracles, none of that Jesus miraculous stuff like that. God is just like winding up, making the clock, winding it up, and that's it. Deism. All right, page 2. I want to say near the bottom. Yep. That's one of the Enlightenment ideas and so forth. Who was one of the most famous deists, at least in this country? You remember that? Yeah, the third president, Thomas Jefferson. Yeah. Okay, Garrett, who goes? Okay. Tessa, give me the answer to this question. This is kind of a weird concept. We usually call these people pirates unless they're your friends. And Queen Elizabeth the First, liked these guys because they were the ship's captains that helped her to defeat the Spanish Armada. What did Queen Elizabeth, this is near the top of the page 2, what did Queen Elizabeth refer to these sea captains, these English sea captains, who actually did raid Spanish treasure ships on a frequent basis and take the treasure? What did she refer to them as? What's a nice name for a pirate when they're on your team? What's that? I think you're looking at it because if you're pointing right there, what is it? They're called pirates, but they're not. But that's like, what's a nice way to refer to them as? Privateers. That's what I thought I heard you say. Privateers. Yep, privateers. Okay. All right. Who goes next? Okay, Hannah. Give me the answer to this question. Give me the name of this country. This is one of those countries that we studied during this time period, and man, did they expand. They expanded. So by the time that we finish this particular unit, they've got territory that goes from Poland in the western part all the way over to the Pacific Ocean. What country was that? Don't hurry yourself. No rush. Just make sure you know what the answer is. Don't be Russian to get the answer to this question. Russia is right. Yeah, it's very good. Okay. Hannah, who goes? Ellie. The Portuguese were not really happy with the people from this country because this country pushed them out of South Africa, pushed them out of Indonesia. This was a latecomer to that European exploration and conquest. The Dutch / Netherlands. Oh, very good. The Dutch / Netherlands / Holland. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then it became the Dutch East Indies. Okay, Ellie, who goes? Who goes? Owen goes. Owen. Give me the name of this man. He was a conqueror. He defeated the Swedes to expand his territory. And because he defeated the Swedes, he was able to set up a new capital city on the Baltic Sea, which then flowed into the Atlantic Ocean. So his country now had access to the water. He named the capital city after himself, thank you very much, who was this very powerful monarch of Russia. Yeah, the question is who? Do you want me to repeat the question? Yeah, it was Peter the Great. Very good. I would be a repeater if I actually repeated the question. All right, who goes next? Yeah. Ellie, here's your question. All right. Remember Henry IV, the guy that went flip-flop, Catholic, Protestant. Eventually, he's like, I'm the king. I'll be Catholic because that's what most of the people of France are. But you know what, those Protestants? You can practice your religion. And in fact, in your southern French areas, you can have your weapons. Huh. What was the name of the law that he announced that decision, which later would be revoked by subsequent kings in France, including Louis XIV. Henry IV, what was his law that he gave toleration to Protestants? This would be this is about third of the way down on page 2. He's from France, and his law is called the No, that ended the 30 Years' War. Got some hands? No, that's pushing people out of buildings. Yeah, that's pushing people out of high floor buildings, windows. Okay. Are you going to call somebody? Yeah, it's on page 2. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on page 2. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff this last semester. Edict of Nantes from France. Yeah, Edict of Nantes from France. Okay, Ellie goes.
Owen.
Bounces off Owen and hits Bobby. All right, Bobby, here's your question. Let's do some more of these ones. Okay. Give me the name of the first permanent English colony in North America. 2 parts of it. The community is named after the king who came after Elizabeth, and of course, the colony is named after Elizabeth, although it's not called Elizabeth. It's Virginia, and then what is the community with the first community in Virginia? Named after the guy who became the king of England after Elizabeth died. You can call on somebody. Jamestown. Yep, Jamestown, Virginia. All right. Who goes next? Okay, Nathan, here's your question. Give me the name of, this concept. Okay? This is a concept that John Calvin was all about. This is the idea that there's people who show signs that they're going to go to heaven. There's people that show signs that are not going to go to heaven. Very important concept within Calvinism, that maybe there would be signs of material success or some kind of thing like that. What is that kind of idea? We know where they're going. We know what their destination is going to be. Predestination is exactly right. Okay, who goes next? Okay, Garrett, here's your question. Give me the name of this man. He had, Martin Luther's back. Martin Luther, right, he's like in the Pope's face and saying, yeah, you're doing all wrong and selling indulgences and so forth. And the Pope was mad. The Pope wanted to get Martin Luther. But Martin Luther was smart because he never left this guy's territory in the German-speaking area that he was from. Who was the guy that had the back of Martin Luther and wouldn't let him fall into dangerous hands? Yeah, what's his name? The Elector of Saxony? John? One of the Johns. And it would be near the bottom of page 1. One of the guys from Harry Potter? Is it really? One of the twins? Oh, right, yeah, the middle name is, yeah. It's not George. Frederick, yeah, John Frederick of Saxony. Very good. Garrett, who goes? Chloe? Okay. Chloe, here's your question. Give me the name of the man who, in 1492, he sailed the ocean blue on behalf of Spain. Where was he actually from? Yeah, he's originally from Italy. But you got that one. Okay, Chloe goes. Abby goes. All right, Abby, give me the name of this guy. He was telling the Pope and everybody wanted to listen to him, you know what? I've looked at the stars. I've looked at the sun. I've looked at the moon. I've got my telescope. It's not a devil's tool. I've looked at all these things, and I tell you what, the earth goes around the sun. Although when put under a lot of heat, he backed off. Who was this Italian astronomer that agreed with Copernicus and Kepler and said, yeah, the earth does go around the sun, but he was forced to recant? It was Galileo. Very good. Okay, who goes next? Tessa, give me the name of this religion. It's the official name of the Church of England. It's not Catholic, it's Protestant, although they retain a lot of the Catholic ideas and so forth. Henry VIII liked it. Elizabeth liked it. It's another name for Church of England. Anglican is right. Very good. Anglican. All right, nice. Okay, Tessa goes. Ellie, here's your question. Speaking of Anglicans, these people didn't necessarily like these other Protestants in England, because these other Protestants were more like Calvinists. They were more like, get all that Catholic stuff out of there. They were more refined, in a sense, getting rid of all of the extra Catholic-y kind of stuff. What do they call them in England? It's right in there at the top of page 2 as well. Okay, they were always putting pressure. In fact, when they did briefly have control over England for a while, after Charles I was executed, they banned Christmas because it was just The Puritans, exactly. Very good. Okay, Ellie, who goes? Who? Hannah. This one tripped up people in the other class. This is a territory, huge territory in central northern Europe. I mean, it had an emperor, although the emperor was elected, therefore not that powerful. It was ostensibly Catholic, although eventually you had a lot of Protestant areas within it. What was the name of that sort of mostly German-speaking area that by the end of the 30 Years' War, I mean, they didn't really have control over much of anything? It's got 3 names, and the third name is Empire. No hands up yet. Oh, we got a couple of hands up. This is the fifth. That's the second and the third. And the first word is? No, close. Holy Roman Empire, yeah. But if you think of it as Catholic, yeah, and so forth. Okay? All right, Hannah goes. Who? Okay, Maddie, here's your question. All right, give me the name of this country in Europe. They participated in the 7 Years' War. They actually started out this time period fairly small, but got bigger and bigger and bigger. They're in Northern Europe. They speak German. They were on the side of the British during the beginning of the 7 Years' War, and eventually Russia joined them at the same time. They were not one of the big explorers. Even though they had access to the ocean, they were not one of the big explorers, so that's why we didn't include them in our game. Setting up colonies and so forth. Who are these ones? Don't be Russian, and it isn't Russian. It's not Russia. It's Prussia, that's right.
I had no idea. I didn't get that.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, it is different. Eventually, when we look at like Prussia in history, eventually they're going to change their name and they'll be known as Germany. So, okay, yeah, that's where that comes from. Yeah, I mean, so Prussia, add a few more German-speaking areas, call it Germany. Okay, Maddie goes. Bounces off me, goes to you. All right, here's your question. All right, give me the guy's name. He was like Mr. Encourager. You needed money and for ships and so forth to go exploring into the Atlantic Ocean. This was the guy. He was part of the royal family in Portugal. He was the one who encouraged sea exploration in the Atlantic Ocean on behalf of the Portuguese. He was an early one. He's on page 3. Prince Henry the Navigator. Okay, very good. All right, who goes? Owen, give me the name of this really beautiful sculpture by Michelangelo. It's the sculpture of a man and a woman. The woman is alive. The man is dead on her lap. It is Mary and Jesus after Jesus is taken off of the cross. What is that famous sculpture by Michelangelo called? It's on the first half, about halfway down on page 1. Pietà is what it's called. Very good. Okay, the Pietà. Okay, Owen, it goes. Garrett, give me the name of the thing that Martin Luther was like, I've got a problem with you, Pope, and your whole indulgence selling thing and so forth, and saying that you have the power to forgive and so forth. I've only just got one problem. I got so many things. I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper. And he like, boom, 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 nailed it up. October 31st, 1517, I think it was. 1517. What was the name of that document that he nailed up to the church in Wittenberg? 95 Theses. Okay. Who goes next? Coat. All right, here we go. Give me the name of... Let's do this one. This group. These guys are conquerors. I mean, who can stop them? They conquered the Russians. They conquered the Persians. They conquered all over the place. They set up a massive trading network that really worked well for increasing trade between Europe and other parts of Asia. And then later, boom, it all imploded. The Mongols, yeah, it's the Mongols. Yeah. Okay? We covered a lot. We didn't cover everything, but we covered a lot. Keep going through and prepping 48 hours. Y'all will do it. Okay? You'll do it.